Welcome everyone. Today we will be discussing about the data information and the computer memory. So first of all, let us consider what is our data, and then we will uh, talk about the information. What is an information, and then finally memory. So before knowing about computer memory, it is we should know the purpose of having a memory, because why we require a memory. Memory is like a jar, like a container where we will put something. So it's kind of storage uh, with some capacity. So now let us see what is data. A, B, C, D. So now we have A, B, C, D. A itself is a data. B itself is a data. C and D. So alone A doesn't make any sense. A, B, C, D, when they are considered, when they are seen individually, they do not make any sense. We just know they are part of our English alphabet, but A is just a letter, it's not making any sense. Also B, C, D, so they are not making any sense, they are only uh, the characters. So the practical definition, the actual definition of data is the fragment. Data is a piece of thing, a segment which doesn't mean anything, which is just a part, like a fragment, a block of something, some unit of something. That is the data. And information makes some sense. So information is the collection of data. When we are combining multiple data elements like A, B, C, D, still it's not making any sense, because A, B, C, D, it's they are just alphabets. So now if I write data, then these DATA, these are data elements individually. When DATA are seen individually, they are also data, because they are fragments, they are parts or blocks. So when these four elements or four blocks are combined together, then they are making an information. In this case, they are not making any sense, so they will not be called as an information. In this case, they are making sense for data. We are talking about data, so it's an information. In a broader sense, when we are discussing about information in real, what is a genuine information, what is a true information or ideal information, that is, let's say we have name Devi, age 55. So here again, these all individual characters, they are also fragments or data. Combining them together then makes individual data elements. Then this will be seen as elements also, as data also. So name itself are data, Devi, age and 55, they are all data. When we are seeing the whole picture, when we are considering all these data elements as a whole or combining them together, then we can understand, yeah, we are talking about name, which is Devi, and the age is 55. So it makes some sense. So as it is making some sense, it will be known as the information. Or another example can be name is Devi, age is 55, comma separated, or any sentence. It's a statement. It conveys that we are talking about someone whose name is Devi and his age is 55. So it will be the example of information. So these are the things that we are intended to keep inside something. If we are talking about this example, this statement, or these elements, after a few hours or day after, we will forget whatever we have wrote. So we will forget whatever we have written here. So that's why I record these sessions, or you can write these things in or anything uh, in a text document or in a paper document. Why we do this? Because we want to store that. When talking about digital things, when we are saving something in digital devices like memory cards or any kind of memory, those are the containers where we are creating some digital contents like video, image, or audio, or any kind of text file or some kind of file. And finally, we save them. We need to store them somewhere. That space is known as the memory, the storage location or storage space. So these terms, the basic. These were the basic concepts for these terms. So now we know what is data, what is information, and what is a memory. Memory is like a container. If this container, let's say this container, its capacity is 1 liter. Let's say it's a small bucket, a small jug, uh, which will hold liquid mass, and the mass it will be liter, 1 liter of mass, liquid mass. So it's the capacity, it's the storage. This analogy also being applied to the memory. So let's say we have a memory. This is a memory module. So containing some memory chips, one or more memory chips or integrated circuits. So this is a memory thing or anything, not only for memory, not it will only be memory chips. It can also be optical media like CD, DVD types, or all of other magnetic mediums. They are mainly they contain chips, and one more medium, one more magnetic medium we have. That's a disk itself. That is also known as the hard disk. That is in one sense that is optical disk. Those are optical disks, but those are also known as the magnetic media, which is somewhat confusing. So here, these are memory module. Its capacity, let's say, 1 GB. So we have a memory module of 1 GB size, and the same analogy is being applied to the memory. So this is a computer memory, more appropriately a memory module of 1 GB size, where we will be creating and storing. We will be creating that, then we will be storing those digital contents inside this memory. So this is the computer memory, and the purpose of this memory is to save digital contents inside the memory. Now let us discuss what are the types of the memories and their subclasses or classifications. So there is a hierarchy. The hierarchy for memory. Computer memory, it will have, this is So this is the basic hierarchy of the computer memory, where we have the primary type and secondary type. If you recall that von Neumann architecture again, then you will find there was in von Neumann architecture, uh, we saw there that we have a particular requirement for the primary memory, which was RAM there, and secondary memory or the external memory, it was not that much required. It was not compulsory or mandatory to include there, but in practical applications of computer, we use some kind of external memory which are nothing but secondary memory, because we need to store the data, the output somewhere. So it's not that always we just display the output and finish there. For most of the cases, whatever we are seeing as display, as output, uh, there will be a there will be an obvious requirement to store that output in some kind of storage, in some file, which file will be again stored in some kind of external memory or secondary memory. So why primary memory is the internal memory here? Because primary memory is the mandatory memory. This is compulsory. We cannot avoid this memory. We will have to include this. It's a must. So this is the primary memory, which is mainly the RAM in our. Mainly when we are talking about the primary memory or simply memory, we are actually referring to the RAM. ROM is also primary memory, but when we are just saying primary memory, then we are talking about the von Neumann architecture, which was uh, we saw there the primary memory was there, and which is known as the primary memory, or in practical implementation, this is nothing. Uh, this is just the RAM. This is none other than RAM. So, and what are the secondary memories? Secondary memory or secondary memory devices, they are the supplementary memory devices. We are just supplementing the von Neumann architecture because we have some requirement, some general requirement of storing data. Primary memory is all about program execution, where the secondary memory is used to store the output in some file, and that file will be stored in the secondary memory. Let's say we have a file, we have an output of, we are inputting some data into the processor through the operating system. The processor is processing that data, working on that data, and finally it generates some output. So let's say the output is obviously in digital form, anything, a series of bits, okay, series of bits or binary digits. So these are data. Now we are going to store this data. We are going to save this output. Let's say we are just writing an email, or so locally, not online. We are writing some email or some preparing some text document or Word document using some Word or text processors, text editors, and finally we are going to save that document by clicking on the save option. Now all the text, these are actually when you are writing, then those all text, the whole, even the whole program, whatever you see on the screen, everything, they are all being processed in the CPU. So after processing, after the operation that you are working on, everything you are doing on the screen, you generate some output. Like when we are talking about saving that particular document, it's also kind of a processing which will have the output. The output is nothing but to save that file. When you are clicking that save button, you are instructing the operating system to save this document in the locally in the hard disk. So the operating system will do the same accordingly. It will instruct the processor or CPU to save this document, to process in some way to do the processing and generate some output which will further return some the operating system will instruct the processor to do the same, means to save the document locally. So the processor will work accordingly and it will generate a series of binary digits or bits like this. It's not limited to 9 bits. It will generate thousands, 10,000s. The number is it's massive, it's big. So that output will be further stored in the secondary memory or this kinds of memories. In any of these memories, what is the requirement? What where we are intended to store the data will be stored accordingly in any of these devices. So this is how the secondary memory comes into the picture. HD stands for hard disk, the most basic type of secondary memory. Then SSD, faster than HDD, and the floppy, obsolete these days, not used. SD is the your NAND flash memory, NAND memory or flash memory, which are SD cards or memory cards, most appropriately SD cards, mostly known as SD cards in your mobile. And then we have tape, magnetic tape, that is also obsolete these days, deprecated, not used. So this is about the classification. Now let us go more deeper. Now let us see, talk about the primary memory, its classification. The first one is RAM. So what is the RAM? RAM is again of two types. We know what is RAM, the primary memory, and the type of classification RAM is further SRAM and DRAM. SRAM is for static RAM, DRAM is for dynamic RAM. So dynamic RAM, it is the most common type of RAM we use in our computers, PC or laptop. All of those RAMs we use in those devices, they are DRAM or dynamic RAM. So first talk about this DRAM. So DRAM is dynamic RAM, and it is, when compared to SRAM, it is cheaper. And the size, whenever you are going to buy a DRAM, you will buy in GB form. They will give you options of buying memories which are in GB format, like 2 GB, 3 GB, 1 GB is also. I don't think you will get 1 GB, 248, 248, and I have not asked them, but the last size of memory I have bought, that is 8 GB. Okay, so generally 248 GB like this. So this is how you buy a DRAM or dynamic RAM. Again, dynamic RAM, it will be of two types. One is the SDR and the second one is DDR. So you have heard a lot of time that we talk about DDR RAMs or DDR memory. So when we are saying DDR RAM, then it definitely means we are talking about RAM, which is primary memory. And finally, we are mentioning that DDR, it's DDR. Then we are talking about the DRAM, because DDR is a subclass of DRAM or subset of DRAM, and DRAM is faster than SDR. SDR means single data rate, DDR means double data rate. So as the name suggests, it is faster than this memory. SDR is slower than the DDR. DDR is a faster memory than the SDR. So because it provides you double data rate. And again, DDR, it got few variants of the DDR or DDR1 itself. When we are talking the DDR1 memory, then it's actually the DDR memory. Still, I'm writing this as DDR because there is no such thing as DDR1. DDR1 means the DDR itself. So I'm writing again that DDR. DDR2, DDR3, DDR4. So this is the thing. So just see just consider this basic hierarchy which is being advanced by time. DRAM is further divided into HDR, DDR, where DDR is a faster type of memory than the HDR. The DDR we got few variants, DDR1 or the DDR itself, DDR2, DDR3, DDR4. So it's the most recent or current DDR type of memory. And so what actually makes the difference? Where the difference lies on between these memories, how you compare these memories, why there is a requirement of classifying the DDR into DDR 1, 2, 3, 4. So the DDR, it's the fastest among these types. DDR4 is the fastest memory when compared to its counterparts, all of these uh, memories. So it is the fastest type of memory, the DDR4. Again, when power is considered, it can work in the lowest power amongst its variants. The DDR4 is the fastest of kind among its variants, and also it requires the lowest amount of power, electrical energy. When I'm talking about electrical energy, it's not only the voltage, also the current means the power. So it's it requires less amount of power. It like a Bluetooth LE, light energy version of Bluetooth. You can say that DDR4 is a light energy version of. Still now, it's the lightest energy version among these variants. So this is all about DDR. And SDR, there is no uh, there could be variants, but it's not in focus because it's obsolete, it's deprecated, because this is the fastest type of memory. So this is all about DRAM and its classifications. Now let us see on the RAM. RAM is the PROM, EPROM and EPROM. So PROM is the programmable read-only memory. One more difference, which is the crucial difference between RAM and ROM, is its volatile memory. When there is a power loss event, all of the things, all of those data which is stored in the RAM, they will be erased after the shutdown. And in case of ROM, it's of primary kind, but it's non-volatile type. It works like these memories. Still, there is a difference. I will tell you how it's different than these memories. But this ROM and these types of memories, they all share at least one characteristic, which is the ROM is also volatile, not non-volatile, and these memories are also non-volatile. So when considered the ROM, RAM is volatile, but when we see the ROM and the secondary types of memories, so all these memories and ROM, they share only at least one characteristic, the non-volatility. These memory and these secondary memories, they are non-volatile in nature. Means whatever data we are storing inside these memories, they do not get erased by their own. Of course, if there is any kind of fault, any kind of breakdown or trouble in that device, in that particular device, then it's sure that those data, they can be tampered, they can be lost. That's one thing. But mainly, these devices are designed, this ROM and these devices, these are designed to store data permanently. so they do not get erased by their own. So this is the concept. Now we have PRAM, EPROM and EPROM. PROM is a programmable ROM, the basic kind of ROM, or the ROM itself is PROM, and EPROM is electronically programmable read-only memory. So read-only means you can only read; it is not intended to write. Means when we are talking about RAM, RAM is the primary kind of memory. So whenever you are doing some CPU work, when you are actually running a computer system without RAM, you cannot complete you cannot solve the puzzle of von Neumann architecture. Means in order to satisfy that architecture, we will need to include the RAM. Without RAM, it cannot work. So this is a RAM, and it is intended to read and write, to do both. So we could also have used RAM in secondary memory, but due to its volatility, we cannot use the RAM devices as secondary memories. So that's one thing we understand. And second thing is the RAM device itself, it provides you the faster access to the memory. Means the accessibility of this memory, this type of memory, RAM memory, is very much faster. So when you are working with the data, when CPU is very much faster itself, CPU is the fastest device in the computer. So when we are providing some information, when we are feeding the system with some information, or flooding, we are just the system gets flooded with the information, then actually those data, they do not go to the processor directly. When we instruct the operating system through some handles or APIs, through some applications software. So I have discussed about that in separate video about that video in which I was talking about the application software, system software, operating systems, and how they communicate with the hardware. So there I have talked about API or handles. So the application software uses those operating system APIs that the kernel and shell provides, and finally the operating system is working with the hardware using the handles or APIs that the hardware provides. So here also, when you are giving some instruction to the operating system, the operating system will again instruct the hardware to do something. So that is all those data that when we are trying to access the CPU through the operating system, we just cannot access the CPU directly. We will have to access to the hardware, and in order to pass the data or information into the CPU, we will have a path. That path goes via the RAM, the primary memory. So first we will have to first we will have to reach the primary memory. Then the data, there will be a data pool. So let's say we are just flooding the system with lot of data. All of those data, they goes through the operating system to the RAM, the primary memory. That RAM will contain a data pool, and finally that data pool is being accessed by the CPU. So why the RAM is required? Because we need some kind of memory to store them fast. CPU also got its own memories. CPU also got its own memory, which are known as the CPU registers, and cache memory. CPU also got cache memory, cache memory. So this cache memory and is also SRAM. The SRAM, I forgot to tell about SRAM. Okay, so this is the case. The SRAM is the faster kind of memory. DRAM is the most common type of memory you will find in computer system, and SRAM is the fastest kind of memory. It is fastest when I'm using greater than bracket. When I'm using greater than symbol, I mean that it's a faster kind than the other. Means SRAM is faster than the DRAM. So now The SRAM, where we do use SRAM? SRAM can also be used as the RAM. RAM got two parts. RAM got two classifications. RAM got two subclasses or subsets, SRAM and DRAM. DRAM is the most common type of memory, and SRAM, this could also be used as a RAM. Means we can also use SRAM in our motherboard, like we used to install the DRAM. We can also install SRAM, but the problem is that SRAM is faster than the DRAM, which is again a good thing, a good point. But SRAM is very much expensive. It's very much expensive than the DRAM, and the fastness factor, it's commonly it is 2 to 3 times faster than the DRAM, and also it is expensive than the DRAM, and also the SRAM, it will be sold in MB factor or MB format or MB size, simply put MB size. So when you are going to buy a SRAM, then you will generally the seller will show you options, all those devices, SRAM devices, with a rating of MBs. So if you surf the internet, if you search on the Google, you will definitely get what are those options, what are those sizes which commonly come in MBs, megabytes. Because megabytes, because SRAM is not intended to be used as a RAM. When we are talking about RAM, it is definitely the dynamic type, the dynamic RAM, and the static RAM or SRAM, it is because it is more expensive. Not only because it is 2 to 3 times faster, it's also, which was a good point, but it's also expensive. So due to this cost, cost effectiveness factor, it is not satisfied for using in day-to-day basis. So when we are actually using or making use of a computer, when we are using a laptop or desktop, then the architecture is designed in such way that it can be the device for every consumer electronics, and it is not an exception for the computer system also, that we always try to design and develop such systems which are cost effective and which are of some use, which makes some usage. So again, SRAM is used, but where do we use SRAM? SRAM is used in the CPU, in the processor inside. In the processor, we use the SRAM. So how the SRAM is seen when getting used in the CPU? When the SRAM is integrated into the processor, then it is called the CPU cache. CPU CACH, CPU cache memory. So CPU also got registers as well as CPU cache memory. So register, it is of fastest kind of memory, then the cache memory, and finally if you ever open the system information, the application, be it on Linux or Windows, it gives you a proper idea on the system, the configuration you're using, all those hardware components and software pieces of software, what are actually installed in your system. There is a program called System Information Checker, mainly System Information Viewer or widget or window or wizard. So all these, when you're using Microsoft Windows, if you write sys sysinfo in run, then and hit enter, then you will see that a window form opens, and then a window or Windows form opens, and there we are getting a list of system specifications, all those system parameters. which generally come in name value pair. They basically comes in name value pair. Like the OS is Windows XP, version is this name and value pair. So if you ever check the system information in any of the platform, be it Windows or Linux, you will find that the CPU, if you go to the CPU tab, or simply if you open the task manager in Windows, there will be a CPU tab under performance. So if you check that, then you will see L1 cache, L2 cache, L3 cache. So those are also pronounced as cache. I also lot of times I say cache. So but it is not right to pronounce cache because it's cache, CACHE, cache memory. So L1, L2, L3, or L1 and L2 basically of uh, smaller size than the L3. L3 is always a bigger size. So L3 cache, we have the CPU. Inside the CPU we got the register memory and also the cache memories L1, L2, L3, which is the largest of uh, among those among the other caches. So we got the CPU. Inside that CPU we have CPU registers or register memory, and then the cache memories L1, L2, L3. L3 is the highest of its size. Basically in MB, 3 to 4 MB L3 cache is common, and L1, L2 those are actually in KB, kilobytes. So that memory, that cache memory is the SRAM memory. So we were talking about ROM. PROM, von Neumann architecture. Uh, it's just the John von Neumann, who was a mathematician. He designed an architecture which is known as the von Neumann architecture. There we see we have a primary memory, a requirement for primary memory. So later we invented, it's not a discovery, we invented the RAM and ROM, which is of primary kind. So as of now, we know that RAM is critical to run a computer system, but it's also true that we can also run the system without using RAM, only with the help of ROM, but to some extent. I have a session, I have uploaded a video on the BIOS and its responsibility. If you see that video, to watch that video, you will get to know that BIOS is a system software which does the basic homework, which does the basic uh, uh, functionality check, a basic device checking. It got two responsibilities: performing post and the boot loading. If you watch that video, then you will get to know that that total BIOS system, basic input output system, is actually stored in your ROM memory, not RAM. RAM is volatile. You cannot write a software and install in that RAM memory permanently. That will be get erased after that power failure event. So we make use of ROM. ROM is a kind of memory where we cannot save data permanently, provided that the memory is working fine and it's not broken. So EROM is the ROM itself. The like if you ever bought the CD DVD disc from any shop, then there basically for the CDs you will get 702 MB free storage, and for DVD you will get 3.98 GB, which is near to 4 GB. So there are lot of other sizes for DVD. So in this case, you have PROM. When we are talking about a ROM or PROM, you should mention that it's a PROM. Why? Because PROM and EPROM and EPROM, uh, these are not just variants of ROM. These are there is a big difference between these memories, not just one or two differences. The ROM, these are the variants of ROM or classification of ROM, but as these variants I was talking about DDR 1, 2, 3, 4, as you see the DDR, which is again classified or variants where DDR, DDR2, 3, 4. So these are classified by only two factors. The two factors we had to consider, they were the power factor and the speed factor. So DDR4, it was the fastest kind of memory among its siblings, and power factor, it was the uh, it was a kind of memory which can work on the lightest energy or the lowest energy among its siblings. Similarly, not similarly, here the case is totally different. PROM, EPROM, and EPROM, they are different, and those factors, there were only two factors, and here there are many factors. I'm telling you how. PROM is like that CVD or DVD disc or optical disc which you buy from a shop in 14 to 15 rupees, and you get sizes or capacity in MBs or GBs or DVDs. So those are basically blank in nature. When you get a new DVD or disc, that is typically empty, and you can write data into that. In this case, PROM is the same thing. It is manufactured in the factory, which is blank in nature. These chips. These are chips. These are chips like this. There will be pins. These are chips, ROM chips. These are basically empty in nature, and you have the opportunity to load data into it. But PROM, it is write once. You can only write one and read for multiple times. Means you will have to buy the chip, then you will make use of some kind of program or a microcontroller device where you will be that device or tool is required or is used to program such chips, ROM chips, blank ROM chips. So you will be connecting that programmer using a data cable, and you will be programming, and finally that you will be uploading or burning the program into the chip using that programmer. I will show you how to do that in other videos. In digital electronics videos, I will show you how to do that. And in also microcontroller development sessions, I will show you how to burn a chip and how to program a chip. So here this is the PROM, and EPROM is a similar kind of read-only memory. The E stands for erasable, means the as for this it was you can only write for once and read for multiple times. Once it is written, the data you cannot modify that data. Like that's why whenever you buy a CD or DVD, there will be a label written as CD-ROM, like CD-ROM or DVD-ROM. Means you can only read. You can only read. You cannot write. You can write, but for only once. Once the data is written into it, you cannot modify. But EPROM, it gives you a flexibility to erase the data. How? This chip similar as this chip, similar to this chip, this will also be a chip with pins, but with a little difference. This is a mirror. Inside this mirror, there will be an element, a thing. Hopefully, the main contents of the chip or of the integrated circuit, which actually holds the data. So this is when I will be talking about integrated circuits. What is an IC? An IC is just a case, semiconductor device, a case, and where a silicon die, if you know a chip is a silicon die, uh, this silicon die. So this body, this chip body, the rectangular structure, this is made on the silicon die. It's actually a silicon die where the main element which is, I will tell you what are the elements of the memory, how to form a memory, I will tell you. But for now, those are basically capacitors and transistors. For DRAM, we use uh, one for a I will be talking about cells, memory cells. What are memory cells? So for any kind of memory, we will having memory cells. Like my skin, this is made using some cells, lot of cells, uh, billion of cells. So these millions and billions of cells, they form my whole body, like mine and yours. So similarly, the memory, it is formed by adding or concatenating or combining uh, lots of transistor and capacitor devices. So they basically, those capacitor, transistors, those elements, electronic components are used to form each memory module or memory cells. So it's like the Dairy Milk Cadbury. It's like it is a memory, and we got cells like this. So it's a matrix of 1, 2, 3, 4, 20 modules. So these 20 modules, these are called cells. Each of them is called cell. It's a cell. It's a when all of these cells are combined together, this is seen as a whole, which is called the memory module or the memory itself. So this is the memory where each of these cells are made of transistor, or sometimes combining the capacitor with the transistor. No, capacitor is an electronic component, and here in case of DRAM, when DRAM is formed, each cells, each the cell, when DRAM is concerned, each cell of the DRAM, let's say this is a DRAM. If it's a DRAM, each of the cells of DRAM, it will be formed using one transistor and one capacitor. There will be only one transistor and one capacitor for each cell. And when talking about SRAM, if it's a SRAM, then each cell of the SRAM will be formed using 6 transistors. So as I was talking, as I told you that SRAM is expensive, costlier than the DRAM. So you can consider this may be the reason there are 6 transistors for each modules, for making each memory cells. So it's costlier. Again, it's faster than the DRAM. So this is the case. Now consider this whole thing, this memory matrix inside this glass mirror, inside this chip. Inside this chip, this rectangular smaller rectangular form is the mirror, which you can see the element inside. You can see that this element, this is not actually rounded, it's also a rectangular form, and it is the main element which is formed by combining the transistors or basic memory module. So why it is required, why we need a glass interface, and why this the main element inside that mirror should be seen to the open world, why that should be exposed. We could also design this like this, like the PRAM, but we never did that because when talking about EEPROM, E means erasable. So there should be some way to erase the chip, erase the data into inside the chip. How to do that? This is the way. When this chip, mainly when the main element, the rounded in I have drawn wrong. This would be a square or in rectangular form. The main element which is the memory module on its own. It should be exposed to the ultraviolet ray or light. So in order to, after burning the program into this chip, if we change our decision sometime, let's say we want to uh, load an update, or we just want to update the firmware or program inside this uh, memory, then we will have to just take back this chip. We need to open this IC from the open, not open like this. We will have this when we are using some kind of a programmable ROM or EEPROM or any kind of memory. These chips, for most of the cases, there should be a way uh, so we can the installation can be easier. Let's say we have a motherboard or we have a circuit board PCB where we want to install a PROM or or simply a ROM. So there might be requirements to replace the chip. When and thing is that the idea is that why we do use ROM? ROM memory is used to burn some program. Simply put, as per BIOS or any other firmware, you will have to make use of ROM memories. So whenever we write the program inside the RAM, inside the ROM, how we do that? We use some kind of programmer. So these chips got pins. All those pins, they will be uh, the chip will be the whole chip. It will be fixed on the programmer. Programmer is a device, also a printed circuit board or simply a circuit board, microcontroller board, which will have a socket of similar kind of chip. Means if you want to program a 8-pin chip, 4 pins each sides, or 14-pin chip, the number varies. The number could be any number. So we should also have the corresponding programmer where the socket number will the pins or the holes in that sockets that will match with this number of pins. So if we want to burn 8-pin IC or a 8-pin ROM chip, then we will make use of a corresponding programmer which will have a socket of 8 holes. Socket will contain holes because we have pins. We got pins in the chip. So two separate pins, they cannot stick to each other. They cannot be fixed to each other. We need some kind of hole where we will be putting the pin. So the socket will contain the hole and the pin of the IC. It will sit like that. So if this is a 4-pin IC, sorry, if it's a 8-pin IC, means 4 pins each sides, then it will have 4 holes this side and 4 holes this side, and it will sit like that. It will fix inside the hole, the pins. So this is the structure of programmer and the IC, ROM chip. So this is about programmer, but do we really need a socket in case of real life applications? Means the target device. The target device here is the motherboard where we will be placing the PROM or EEPROM inside the motherboard. So the motherboard itself a PCB, and we need a ROM here because we need to install the BIOS, right? So we will first have a PROM where the BIOS will be burned using a programmer. Then we will get back the chip from the programmer, and finally either we can solder this chip directly into the motherboard or any target device, or we can again similarly like that programmer we can also install a socket in the motherboard or the target device. Finally we will place the chip into the socket. So this will make the installation easier because we are not soldering the IC. We can simply put and get back get back from the socket. So that's the knowledge apart. Now why EPROM has this mirror interface? Because if we have any requirement to update the program or erase the program, then we will be exposing the chip, or if the chip is soldered in the target device, then we will uh, then we will then we will expose the light, or we will focus the light. Then we will focus the UV light. UV light you have probably seen while checking notes, money. A lighter like device where you will have a LED. The color is the ultraviolet color, the violet in nature, and it is visible in human eyes. You can our human eyes, it is capable of seeing the UV. At least UV it's not visible to human eye. It's wrong. Human beings, they are not designed to feel or to see the UV lights. So how we can while we are checking notes or money, how we can see that violet light? Because that's of different frequency. That frequency, the light applies the frequency of the light of that frequency, uh, which is used in checking devices, note checking devices, and all those scanning devices. That UV light is visible to human eye because the frequency used in that light, that frequency is supported by our eyes, because our eye supports that frequency. It comes under that range that our eye can see. So kind of that UV light that will be exposed to this mirror, and the main element lies in under the mirror. It will get the light and the data will be erased. And EEPROM, it is the again a ROM. It will not have any mirror interface, or the main element will not be seen from outside. The EEPROM chip, it's simple simple chip of different numbers of pins. The purpose of this memory is again read write. So you can read and write to this memory. And RAM is faster than ROM, and RAM and ROM both are faster than secondary memory. So again RAM is faster than ROM, and primary memory is faster than the secondary memory. This greater than signs, this denote the memory accessibility of speed. Now you know HD, SSD, floppy, SD, tape. These are all just secondary types of memory, and these will be non-volatile of nature. And again, one more point you have to consider, that is optical drive or optical media. Magnetic media. So what are basically optical media and magnetic media? The optical media is that media which we call the CD DVD drives. CD DVD disc. Drive is the hardware part, which records or plays the disc. That's the driver. the main hardware behind the actual recording and replaying the device, the storage device. That's called the uh, drive. And here the optical media, it's the disk itself, the DISC disk, not K, DISC, DISC. This is for optical media, and DISK, it is for magnetic media. So CD, DVD, these drives, these are again CD, DVD. These things are the optical storage mediums. These are when referring to the optical media or optical disk, we will spell the disk as DISC. The C will be there, not K. And in case of magnetic media are HDD, this is the magnetic media. SSD also, floppy also, SD also, tape also. These are all magnetic media. And optical media are CD, DVD, disk. And in this case of magnetic media, we will spell the disk like this, DISK. Okay. One more I missed, that is NAND memory. NAND memory, which is of again primary memory. Okay, here one more thing is confusing, that is, if you ever heard about NAND memory, what is a NAND memory? NAND memory. What is a NAND memory? A NAND memory is a similar kind of memory where NAND gates are used. Similar to the EEPROM memory, it's similar like a NAND memory. NAND memory is the most appropriate example of flash memories, SD card memories. This thing. So again, it's of EEPROM class. The NAND memory is of EEPROM class. Let me write class EEPROM, and parent, no, it should be written as parent class is the second one. I hope you can see this. NAND memory. What's a NAND memory? A NAND memory makes use of NAND gates. If you know about digital gates or all those logic gates, then NAND is one of them. So I will be making sessions on logic gates also in digital electronics. Sessions in those series, I will be showing you how to make these gates and how to make usage of these gates. Okay, that's a case apart. Now NAND memory is, or the parent is EEPROM. So when we are referring to NAND memory is nothing but a kind of EEPROM memory. That's why I have written parent. Its parent is the EEPROM memory, and the class is the secondary. Means practical implementation of NAND memory is the SD card. SD, T-flash. T-flash means trans flash. These memories. Pen drive. There is no space, so just writing pen. Pen drive or pen drive, pen drive. These devices are examples of the NAND memory. So I have not added the NAND into this hierarchy because it belongs to both sides. It takes the EEPROM parent from the primary side and it's taking the class from the secondary type. So its class will be secondary because of its volatile non-volatility. That whatever we are saving in the NAND, they will not get uh, erased. So the class is the secondary, and parent is a EEPROM because the the NAND memory it is derived from the EEPROM. It has inherited all the properties of EEPROM. That's why the parent is the EEPROM and the class is the secondary. Examples are SDT flash pen drives. These are the examples. The PROM, EEPROM, EPROM, these are also non-volatile in nature. RAM series is a volatile in nature, ROM series is non-volatile in nature. The EPROM itself, the APROM and PROM, these are also non-volatile in nature, but these are not been added. These have not been added to the secondary type or secondary side. The reason might be probably because they belong to the ROM. The ROM is actually the primary side. ROM is actually in primary side. That could be a reason that these three devices, which belongs to the primary side, they are not. Though they are, although they are sharing the non-volatility property from secondary type, still they are not uh, added to this side or secondary hierarchy. So that's a confusion. That's something to be uh, taken into consideration. But for now, these are the standards. This is the standard how we should classify the computer memory. So for now, let this end here. Just remember NAND memory and all those memories, PROM, APROM, EPROM, all these memories, they are uh, very much close to the ROM, which is very much close to the primary memory. So these are mainly known as these are fully known. It is not mainly, it's totally known as the primary memory. And the NAND memory, it is also inheriting the EPROM. It's also, that's why I've written parent, but it is mainly added. It is mainly referred as the secondary class. So because they tried to make a device which will share which will be a true replacement for the hard disk, for the ssd. Ssd will contain all those flash memories. Ssd is form of NAND. Again, this also NAND. So these are the NAND devices or the storage devices formed by implementing or by using NAND memory. NAND memory is a device that has implemented NAND gates to form these memory cells. This is the thing. All these memory cells inside our NAND memory will be nothing but a typical NAND memory. So if there is a requirement, if there will be a requirement, I will be making a session on a particular memory type, especially NAND memory or things like that. That's up to you. If you think I should make a video on that, I will be making. But for now, just consider this is the standard. This is the standard till date when classifying or when drawing the hierarchy for the computer memory. This is the thing. And SSD, SD, these are of NAND types of memory. So they tried to make a device which will be a true replacement for magnetic media such as HDD and floppy. Those are also obsolete. Those are deprecated, not used these days. Thanks for being with me for a long time. Hope you all understood what I have tried to say, what I have discussed. If there is any doubt, please let me know. I will be happy to clear your doubts. And thank you for watching.